Is owning a massive piece of farmland in Canada cheaper than buying a used car? Sounds crazy, right? But in some provinces, you can snag acres of land for as little as $1,000. Imagine waking up to endless fields, fresh air, and a lifestyle where you control your own food and income. But which provinces offer the best deals in 2025? Which places have the lowest taxes, best growing conditions, and the most profit potential? Stick around because we're counting down the 10 cheapest provinces to buy farmland in Canada, starting with prices that will blow your mind. Number 10. Ontario. Ontario. Now, I know what you're thinking. Wait, Ontario is one of the cheapest provinces for farmland? Well, not exactly. The truth is, farmland in Ontario has doubled in price over the past decade, making it one of the more expensive options on this list. But here's the catch. There are still affordable pockets if you know where to look. First, let's talk about the price explosion. Back in 2012, farmland in Ontario averaged around $5,500 per acre. Fast forward to 2025, and it's now a staggering $11,815 per acre. That's a 115% increase in just over a decade. The reason? Ontario is home to more than 50,000 farms, producing everything from dairy to corn, making it one of Canada's most agriculturally valuable provinces. But don't lose hope just yet. If you're looking to buy farmland on a budget, the key is to move north. In areas like Timiskaming District and Cochrane, farmland prices drop significantly, sometimes as low as $3,500 per acre. That's over 70% cheaper than farmland in southern Ontario, near London or Guelph. Another reason Ontario's farmland is expensive is urban sprawl. Places like the Greater Toronto Area are expanding rapidly, and developers are snatching up farmland left and right. In fact, Ontario loses about 319 acres of farmland every day to urban development. That's nearly 117,000 acres gone per year. So, if you're looking to buy, it's better to act fast before more land disappears. But here's the good part. Ontario's agriculture industry is worth over $50 billion annually and supports 1 in 8 jobs in the province. That means buying farmland here is not just about growing crops. It's a solid investment with long-term gains. With high demand for local produce and government incentives for sustainable farming, owning land in Ontario can be a gold mine if you play it right. So, is Ontario the cheapest place to buy farmland? Number. But if you're looking for an investment in a province where farmland values keep rising, it might just be the smartest place to buy. Number 9. Quebec. Now, let's talk about Quebec. Unlike Ontario, Quebec's farmland hasn't exploded in price quite as dramatically, which makes it a great option if you're looking for a balance of affordability and opportunity. But here's the thing. Quebec's farmland prices can vary by more than 500% depending on the region. Let's break it down. On the expensive side, if you're anywhere near Montreal, Laval, or Quebec City, farmland prices can go as high as $25,000 per acre. Ouch! But if you head further out to areas like Gaspésie, Saguenay, or Abitibi-Témiscamingue, you'll find land for as low as $1,500 per acre. That's almost 17 times cheaper than farmland near major cities. So why is farmland so affordable in Quebec? One word: demand. Unlike Ontario and the prairies, Quebec's farming industry is highly specialized, with a heavy focus on dairy and maple syrup production. This means fewer people are looking to buy large-scale farmland, keeping prices relatively low in rural areas. But here's what makes Quebec really interesting. The government loves farmers here. If you're a new farmer, Quebec offers huge tax incentives, subsidies, and even grants to help you get started. In some cases, you can get up to $50,000 in financial assistance just for starting a farm. And if you're under 40, there are even more perks, like low-interest loans and property tax reductions. Another cool thing? Quebec is Canada's second-largest agricultural province, with over 29,000 farms covering 4.6 million hectares. That means there's plenty of land to go around, and if you're strategic, you can find some crazy good deals. So, if you're looking for farmland that's affordable, government-supported, and still has long-term value, Quebec is definitely worth considering. But remember, location is everything. If you want the best deals, head far away from the big cities and look for land in regions where competition is low. Number 8. British Columbia. When people think of British Columbia, they usually picture million-dollar homes, luxury ski resorts, and insane Vancouver real estate prices. And while all of that is true, farmland in BC can actually be surprisingly affordable, if you know where to look. First off, let's talk numbers. In Metro Vancouver and the Fraser Valley, farmland prices are absolutely ridiculous, hitting up to $100,000 per acre in some areas. That's more expensive than some city properties. But once you move away from the coast, prices plummet. In places like Peace River, Caribou, or the Kootenay region, you can find farmland for as low as $2,500 per acre. That's a 96% price drop just by driving a few hours inland. But why the price difference? It all comes down to demand and climate. The Fraser Valley is one of the most fertile farming regions in Canada, meaning everyone, from dairy farmers to berry growers, wants a piece of the land. But once you move into the drier, less populated parts of BC, the demand drops, and so do the prices. Another factor, British Columbia is big, but only a tiny portion of it is farmable. Of BC's massive 95 million hectares of land, only 5% is used for agriculture. That's less than 5 million hectares. So while farmland here is scarce, it's also underappreciated in more remote areas, meaning there are still amazing deals to be found. So if you're looking for cheap farmland in a province with stunning scenery, strong agricultural markets, and a growing organic food industry, British Columbia might just be your hidden jackpot. Just make sure you don't end up in Vancouver, unless you've got a few $1,000,000 lying around. Number 7. Newfoundland and Labrador. Now, if you're looking for some of the cheapest farmland in Canada, Newfoundland and Labrador is a hidden gold mine. This province is massive, over 405,000 square kilometers. But here's the twist. Only 0.1% of the land is used for farming. That's right. With its rocky terrain and colder climate, Newfoundland hasn't been a big player in Canada's agricultural industry. But that's exactly why farmland here is incredibly cheap. On average, farmland in Newfoundland and Labrador sells for around $3,500 per acre. But in more remote areas, you can find land for as low as $1,500 per acre. That's about 90% cheaper than Ontario or British Columbia. So why aren't more people rushing to buy farmland here? Well, the biggest challenge is climate. Newfoundland has a short growing season, around 120 frost-free days per year, and a lot of rain, up to 1,500 millimeters annually. That means you need to be strategic about what you grow. But don't let that scare you. Livestock farming and greenhouse operations are booming here. The province produces millions of kilograms of root vegetables, berries, and hay each year, and there's a growing interest in sustainable farming. Plus, the Newfoundland government is offering huge incentives to attract new farmers. For example, the Agriculture Growth and Innovation Program, AGIP, provides funding for new farm businesses, covering up to 50% of infrastructure costs. Another bonus? Newfoundland and Labrador has some of the cheapest property taxes in Canada, averaging just 0.7% of property value. That's half of what you'd pay in Ontario. And with land so cheap, you can buy hundreds of acres for the same price as a single acre in Ontario's Niagara region. So, if you're looking for insanely cheap farmland, low taxes, and government funding to help you start your farm, Newfoundland and Labrador is a hidden gem. Sure, it's not the easiest place to farm, but with the right strategy, you could make a killing in agriculture here. Number 6. Prince Edward Island. Welcome to Canada's smallest province, but don't let the size fool you. Prince Edward Island, PEI, is a farming powerhouse, with over 42% of its land dedicated to agriculture, the highest percentage in Canada. And if you're looking for affordable farmland with some of the best soil in the country, PEI might just be your best bet. Now, let's talk prices. Farmland in PEI averages $4,500 per acre, making it cheaper than Ontario, British Columbia, and Alberta. But here's the interesting part. Prices vary dramatically depending on location. Near Charlottetown, farmland can reach $10,000 per acre, but in rural areas like Kings County, you can still find land for as low as $2,500 per acre. That's a 75% difference just based on location. So, what makes PEI special? Potatoes. Yep, PEI is the potato capital of Canada, producing over 2.5 billion pounds of potatoes every year. That's enough to feed every person on Earth 3 large bags of chips. But it's not just potatoes. PEI is also known for blueberries, dairy farming, and beef cattle. The best part? Prince Edward Island has some of the richest, most fertile soil in Canada. The province's famous red soil is packed with iron, making it perfect for high-yield crops. And because the province has a mild maritime climate, farmers here enjoy longer growing seasons compared to places like Newfoundland or Alberta. But there's a catch. You have to be a resident to buy farmland. That's right. PEI has strict land ownership laws to protect local farmers, meaning non-residents can only buy up to 5 acres of land without special approval. So, if you're dreaming of buying a massive farm here, you might need to move to the island first. Still, with affordable land, rich soil, and a strong agricultural economy, PEI is an amazing place to farm, especially if you love potatoes. Number 5. Alberta. Alright, now we're stepping into serious farming territory. Alberta is a beast when it comes to agriculture. With over 50 million acres of farmland, it's Canada's second largest agricultural province. And the best part? Land here is still surprisingly affordable. On average, farmland in Alberta costs around $3,900 per acre, which is 80% cheaper than British Columbia and about 30% cheaper than Ontario. But as always, location makes a huge difference. Near Calgary or Edmonton, prices can jump to $10,000 per acre. But in rural areas like Peace River, Lethbridge, or Vermilion, you can still find land for as low as $1,800 per acre. So, what makes Alberta such a great place to farm? First, it has some of the best farmland in the world. The province is famous for grain farming, wheat, barley, canola, and oats, and it produces over 31% of Canada's wheat supply. That's enough wheat to make 60 billion loaves of bread every year. Another huge advantage? Alberta's beef industry. The province is home to over 40% of Canada's cattle farms, producing some of the best beef in the world. Alberta's cattle industry generates over $12 billion in annual revenue, making it one of the most profitable types of farming in the province. But here's what's really cool. Alberta has some of the lowest farming taxes in Canada. Unlike Ontario or BC, Alberta doesn't have a provincial sales tax, PST, and farmland here is taxed at a lower rate than residential or commercial properties. That means you keep more money in your pocket. And if you're worried about water supply, don't be. Alberta has one of the largest irrigation networks in Canada, covering over 1.7 million acres of farmland. That's more irrigation than all other provinces combined. So even though Alberta has dry summers, farmers here have a reliable water source for crops. The only downside? Winter. Alberta can get brutally cold, with temperatures dropping as low as -40 degrees Celsius in some regions. So if you're not a fan of freezing winters, Alberta might not be for you. But overall, cheap land, strong agriculture, and low taxes make Alberta one of the best provinces to buy farmland. If you're serious about farming, this is the place to be. Number 4. New Brunswick. New Brunswick, a province that often gets overlooked when people think about farming in Canada. But here's the crazy part. Farmland here is some of the cheapest in the entire country. Yep, the average cost of farmland in New Brunswick sits at just $3,200 per acre, with some areas going as low as $1,500 per acre. That's cheaper than a used car. New Brunswick is home to over 3,700 farms covering more than 400,000 acres, but the province is still heavily forested, with over 80% covered in trees. That means there's tons of land available for farming, and because it's still not as popular as Alberta or Ontario, prices stay ridiculously low. Now, what can you actually grow here? Thanks to its mild summers and ample rainfall, around 1,100 millimeters per year, New Brunswick is perfect for dairy farming, poultry, blueberries, and potatoes. In fact, the province produces over 40 million pounds of wild blueberries each year, making it one of Canada's top blueberry producers. Plus, potato farming is huge here, second only to Prince Edward Island. But what really makes New Brunswick special is its low cost of living and low property taxes. Unlike Ontario or British Columbia, where property taxes can eat you alive, New Brunswick's average property tax rate is just 1.12%, and farmland is taxed at an even lower rate. That means you keep more money in your pocket while growing your farm. The best part? New Brunswick has a strong demand for organic and small-scale farming. The province is seeing a surge in farm-to-table businesses, and more people are looking to buy local, organic produce instead of imported food. That means if you start a farm here, you can tap into a growing market and build a profitable business without having to compete with massive corporate farms. The only catch? New Brunswick has a shorter growing season, around 125 frost-free days per year, so you have to be smart about your crops. But with cheap land, low taxes, and a growing demand for local food, this province is a goldmine for anyone looking to start a farm on a budget. Number 3. Nova Scotia. Nova Scotia, and let me tell you, this place is a hidden farming paradise. With its stunning coastline, rich soil, and mild maritime climate, Nova Scotia is one of the best provinces for farming in Canada. And the best part? It's still super affordable. On average, farmland here costs around $2,800 per acre. But in more remote areas like Cape Breton or the Annapolis Valley, you can find land for as low as $1,500 per acre. That's insanely cheap considering Nova Scotia is home to some of the best farmland in eastern Canada. So, what's growing here? Everything. Nova Scotia is famous for its apple orchards, vineyards, and dairy farms. The province produces over 2.5 million bushels of apples each year, and it's one of Canada's top wine regions. That's right. If you've ever dreamed of owning a vineyard, this might be the place for you. Another huge plus? Nova Scotia has a booming seafood industry, and many farmers here are combining farming with aquaculture, fish farming. The province produces over 70% of Canada's lobster supply, and if you play your cards right, you can tap into both farming and fishing industries to double your profits. And let's not forget about government support. Nova Scotia offers tons of grants and funding programs for new farmers, including the Small Farm Accelerator Program, which provides up to $20,000 in funding to help small farms expand. That's free money to help you build your farm. The downside? Nova Scotia has a higher than average property tax rate, around 1.3%, and coastal areas can get hit by hurricanes from time to time. But overall, cheap land, amazing soil, and government support make Nova Scotia a top choice for affordable farming. Number 2. Manitoba. Now, if you're looking for huge farmland at dirt-cheap prices, look no further than Manitoba. This province is massive, over 650,000 square kilometers, and more than 70% of it is farmland. That means a ton of land is up for grabs, and the prices are shockingly low. On average, farmland in Manitoba costs around $2,100 per acre, but in the more remote areas like Interlake or Parkland, you can find land for as low as $1,200 per acre. That's one of the cheapest farmland prices in all of Canada. So why is land so cheap here? Population. Manitoba is one of the least populated provinces, with just 1.4 million people spread across a massive area. That means there's more land than farmers, keeping prices low. But don't let that fool you. Manitoba is an agricultural powerhouse. The province is famous for grain farming, wheat, canola, soybeans, and barley, and is one of Canada's top producers of sunflowers and honey. In fact, Manitoba produces over 25 million pounds of honey each year, making it the honey capital of Canada. Another major plus? Low taxes and farming incentives. Manitoba has some of the lowest property taxes in Canada, around 0.8%, and the government offers huge tax breaks and funding programs for new farmers. The Manitoba Farm Business Registration Program even gives rebates on fuel taxes for farm equipment, saving you thousands of dollars every year. But what really sets Manitoba apart is its strong infrastructure. Unlike other cheap farmland provinces, Manitoba has a well-developed transportation network, making it easy to ship crops and livestock across Canada and even to the US. The province is home to several major grain elevators, processing plants, and one of Canada's busiest inland ports in Winnipeg. The only downside? Winters are brutal. Manitoba gets some of the coldest temperatures in Canada, with winters dropping to -40 degrees Celsius in some regions. But if you can handle the cold, cheap land, strong agriculture, and low taxes make Manitoba one of the best places to buy farmland in Canada. Number 1. Saskatchewan. If you've ever dreamed of owning hundreds or even thousands of acres of farmland without breaking the bank, then this is the place to be. Why? Because land here is ridiculously cheap, averaging just $1,600 per acre. And in some areas, you can find land for as low as $1,000 per acre. That's cheaper than a fancy laptop. But don't let the low prices fool you. Saskatchewan is an agricultural powerhouse. This province is known as Canada's breadbasket because it produces over 54% of Canada's wheat and is one of the world's largest exporters of grains and oilseeds. In 2023 alone, Saskatchewan farmers harvested over 37 million tons of wheat, barley, and canola. If you want to get into grain farming, this is the best place in Canada to do it. One of the biggest perks of farming in Saskatchewan is the sheer size of the farms. Unlike provinces like Nova Scotia or Prince Edward Island, where land is divided into small plots, Saskatchewan has massive farms that can be hundreds or even thousands of acres. In fact, the average Saskatchewan farm is about 1,668 acres compared to just 780 acres in Ontario. That means more room to expand and grow your farming business. Another major advantage? Saskatchewan has some of the lowest property taxes in Canada. While places like British Columbia and Ontario have property tax rates that can exceed 1.5%, Saskatchewan's farmland property tax is typically below 1%, meaning you'll save thousands of dollars every year just on taxes. On top of that, the province offers numerous farming grants and tax incentives, including fuel tax exemptions and interest-free loans for young farmers. Now, what about the weather? Yes, winters here can be brutal, with temperatures dropping to -40 degrees Celsius in some areas. But Saskatchewan also has one of the longest growing seasons in Canada, with about 115 to 130 frost-free days per year. Plus, thanks to modern farming techniques like dryland farming and irrigation systems, farmers here can still produce massive yields despite the harsh climate. And here's the best part. Demand for Saskatchewan farmland is growing. Over the past decade, farmland prices here have been rising by an average of 7% per year, meaning that if you buy land now, you could see a massive return on investment in the future. So if you're looking for affordable land, massive farming potential, and strong long-term value, Saskatchewan is by far the best province in Canada to buy farmland.